Yeah, this has been an unusual week with two videos in the same week. I had to make the previous video about the seals being open. I wanted one more chance to try and get some people to at least consider the idea that the seals are open. Because if you can't consider that, then this video is going to be a complete waste of time. What was that? Someone out there just said, "You mean like the last video was?" Oh, there were a lot of people who did not like. The dogs were howling over that last video. Oh, they don't like the seals being open. They don't want to hear it. The church said they're closed, and that's just the way it's going to be. You know, the thing I love most about that scene in Revelation where our Lord is taking the scroll is that John got to see the heavenly version of Jesus opening the scroll, assuming all authority, and then sending out the white horse, the church, on its mission. But he was also present on earth when Christ did the same thing, the earthly version of that. At the end of Matthew, the Lord appears one last time and says, "All authority has been given to me in heaven and earth." That's him saying, "I have the scroll, boys. I own it." And then immediately he says, "Therefore, go out there into all the nations." That's him sending out the white horse, the church, earthly version. John got to see both. That's amazing. Did you like that, dogs? No. Nope. They don't like it. They don't like it. You might as well turn this video off then, because it won't do you any good. The full moon prophecy. What was that? Someone yelled out, "Are you a Hopi Indian now? Did you learn that in a sweat tent?" No, let me explain what happened. A few weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, I was putting together one of my videos, and I was adding that Hollywood level graphics that I do on each video. And I was I was going to take a verse out of the sixth seal, and I noticed something that I had never seen before, ever. Well, if I had seen it, I had never taken notice of it. Here's what it was. "And there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth, and the full moon became like blood." The full moon? Now, why hadn't I seen that before? Well, as it turns out, I was in the English Standard Version. Now, my default casual Bible reading version is the New King James Version. I just like the way it's written. And I like all the Bibles. Message Bible, no. But I like all the Bibles that I've run across. And I like the way it sounds. But I've noticed over the last couple of years how responsive the English Standard Version is to the Greek text. I've been more and more going to the English Standard Version. But let me show you that same verse in the New King James Version, and we'll start to see the problem we got to deal with. "And there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood." There's no full in there, no full moon. So I'm trying to figure out, did they leave full out, or did the English Standard Version insert full? And I was like, there's no way the English Standard Version inserted a word that wasn't in the Greek text. But there obviously isn't a version. The King James Version isn't going to remove a Greek word. And I was baffled by it, but I was putting together a video and I said, I got to deal with this the next day. So I started looking into why is the English Standard Version contain the word full moon, and not in the New King James Version. As I'm starting this process, this blew my mind, by the way, I get an email from a friend who says, "Hey, Stan, have you noticed in Revelation 6:12, the word is full moon? Have you noticed that?" And I was like, what? The first time I'm actually looking and seeing and recognizing that a version says full moon, and a friend just happens to email me and go, "Hey, have you noticed it says full moon?" That almost freaked me out. But I had to get to the bottom of it. So let me try to make this as painless as I can. But we're going to have to go into the weeds a little bit, because if full moon actually is or should be in our Bibles, that's an enormous clue. If it's not there, I don't want to waste my time. It's just a distraction. And we'd be delusional to go after it. So we have to figure this out. To show you the extent of the problem, I just took a list of Bibles from the online somewhere. I left out the Message Bible, and I also left out derivative Bibles. In other words, sometimes they'll make a version of the Bible, a translation of the Bible, and then later they'll come out with the children's version, and then they'll stick the Apocrypha in and come out with the Catholic version. I left out the derivatives, just went with their main version. And it's not an exhaustive list, but I think it's a pretty good list. Here are the Bibles that do, yes, contain full, and those that do not contain the word full. Here's page 1. We'll just scroll down quickly, first with the yes Bibles. Yes, these all contain the word full. This is just page 1. Some very notable Bibles and some obscure Bibles, okay? Here on page 1, the no Bibles. Once again, some well-known Bibles and some obscure Bibles. Here's page 2, same thing. Yes, they include full moon, Revelation 6:12. Once again, some well-known, not so well-known as well. And then the no list, okay? Some very well-known Bibles and some unknown Bibles there as well. Okay, so let's see if we can get to the bottom of this. And I could do a long version or the short and sweet. Let's go with the short and sweet, don't you think? And then you can check me on any of my facts on the internet yourself. When a publishing company wants to do a Bible translation, a new one, they don't get together a group of textual critic experts and say, all right, go through the thousands of manuscripts that are in existence, the fragments, the parchments, the entire books in some cases, and cobble together a New Testament that you feel is reliable. That would take forever. They don't do that, because that work has already been done. There are already a number of Greek texts where experts have done just that, looked at the manuscripts, made their decisions based on looking at them and the reliability of them, and they cobbled together an entire New Testament. Here are the main ones. These are all famous, and these are the leading ones that I could find. They've all produced Bibles. They're all regarded, great scholarly work and all of that. Now, let's query that group. Okay, this is where your Bible came from, one of these, more than likely. I mean, 99% of the time it's going to come from one of these Greek texts. Let's ask these Greek texts, Revelation 6:12. Does it contain this Greek word that's translated full or complete or whole? Does your Greek text contain that Greek word? You almost unanimously, yes. Where's the problem? Textus Receptus. We'll get to that. But you can see there's uniformity and agreement about that verse. And they say full or whole or entire all belong in that verse. So you can see that only one outlier, Textus Receptus. Well, instead of looking at Greek texts and trying to make a determination of who's right and who's wrong, which would be impossible for, amateurs like you and me, let's just kind of leave that on the back burner for now. There are instruments, there are codexes, and things that were done way before the Greek text of the modern era came out. For instance, these are the 4 main codexes from the ancient times, from the 300s, that contain a Greek New Testament. Vaticanus, unfortunately, does not contain Revelation, which is unfortunate. It was added later by someone who wrote it in a completely different style of writing. Don't know who did it. Don't even know what it says, because it is so scrawly to look at. There's no way I could see if this Greek word was in Revelation 6:12. First of all, there are no chapters and verses, so it would be impossible. However, Westcott and Hort leaned highly on Vaticanus, and they say it's in there. They say full or whole or complete is in there. The moon was full, whole, or complete. It was like blood. So they have it in their particular Greek text. The oldest complete Bible, Codex Sinaiticus, has this Greek word in its text. So it says the whole of the moon became like blood. This is true for the other two as well. Alexandrinus and Ephraimi all say, yes, it's there. Another piece of work that we should be aware of is the Latin Vulgate. In that same time frame, in the 300s, the Pope told scholar St. Jerome, make me a Latin text based on our Greek manuscripts, which he and other scholars did. It too contains this Greek word in their text. It says luna tota, full moon. So it's in all of the oldest pieces of work that we have. And it is in agreement with almost all modern scholars who put together Greek text. They say it's there. Textus Receptus is the one that says it's not. What happened with them? Well, here's a brief history of Textus Receptus. As you may know, that's the Greek text used by the King James Version. It happened to come out just as the printing press had been invented. So publishers were looking for a Latin text. They went to a scholar by the name of Erasmus, a Dutch theologian, and said, would you make us a Latin text? We can get it out on the printing press and we can send it out all over the world. He said, yes, that's just something he wanted to do anyway. And they said, well, hurry, because there's a competing project and we want to beat it to the marketplace. So not only did he give us a Latin text in his work, he gave us a Greek text. That Greek text that he provided would go on to be Textus Receptus. It became the actual big hit between the Latin text and the Greek text. It was the big hit. Another publisher came along and said, let's just focus on that, and they named it Textus Receptus. And then the King James Version translators used that text to make the King James Version. Luther used it to make his translation into German. So did the Geneva Bible. It hit at the right time. The problem is Erasmus only could borrow copies of manuscripts from the 12th century. Not very old, not from the 300s or 400s or from the 12th century. In addition to that, he told a friend that his copy of Revelation was insufficient. It was missing some verses and he had to fill them in with Latin, translated back to Greek. On top of that, he said, the fact is, getting a copy of Revelation is rare. They're just not that many. And so he used what he had. But here's the kicker, and here's the takeaway. His Greek text wouldn't allow him to put the word full or whole in Revelation 6:12 because it's not there. And by the way, experts will tell you it's more likely that things are left out than put in, especially a three-letter word. In the Latin portion of his book, he does include it in Revelation 6:12. So it's not that this scholar thought that whole or full or complete doesn't belong in Revelation 6:12. He just couldn't put it in there because his Greek manuscripts didn't allow it, and he was printing them out. But when he could print the Latin text, he included it. So the one guy who removed full, whole, or complete from that verse puts it back in the Latin side of his book. So imagine if I came to you and said, well, full or whole is nowhere to be found in the oldest manuscripts, but it does show up in the 1500s, so we should accept that. No, you would go, well, that sounds crazy. But the opposite is true. It's always been there in the oldest documents. It went out at Textus Receptus, but the guy that had to leave it out puts it back in the Latin side. There's no doubt in my mind that this Greek word absolutely belongs in Revelation 6:12, and modern scholars almost unanimously would agree with that. The only ones who wouldn't agree with it are the ones that are in favor of Textus Receptus because they think it's perfect. I don't believe that. I just want the truth. This Greek word belongs in Revelation 6:12. So I'm going to proceed as if it has every right to be there as any other word. And I'm not going to let one text built upon copies from the 12th century derail me from that. I just am not going to do it. It's there. It's provable. If you took this into court, you would prove your case every single time. It's there. It's always been there. It was suddenly gone in the 1500s. But modern day scholarship has put it back absolutely unanimously. They all put full moon back in Revelation 6:12 where it belongs. And that, my friends, turns it into an enormous clue for us. What it is saying is, and many of you knew full was there before I did. And then you said, no, some of you are going, I've seen that my whole life because you read a translation that had it there constantly. But if you read King James or New King James, you wouldn't see it unless you read another translation. And that was what happened with me. So this is, I won't call it a toy, that would be trivializing it, but it's a new element that I'm just getting my arms around. But I know this, it's a phenomenal clue. What it is saying is, when the sixth seal happens, it's going to happen on a full moon. That's what it's saying. The Holy Spirit put that in there so we would know it will happen on a full moon. The great day, the great seal that we're waiting for to open will happen on a full moon. What do we do with that? Well, I want to be careful. I want to be careful. I don't want to go full moon hunting and go, look at this full moon, look at that full moon, I think we should look at important full moons. There's one coming up on August 1st, on Monday, I believe, isn't it? But here's the thing right off the bat that I want to say. It's not that you're going to wake up if you come to the same conclusion that I did, that yes, full moon obviously is in our Bible, obviously is in our Bible. It's not that you're going to wake up on a full moon and go, oh my goodness, it could happen today. Remember, Jesus gave us some signs that run up to that day. He said there will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars, and on earth, distress of nations with perplexity because of the roaring of the sea and the waves. If you wake up on a full moon day and none of that is happening, I doubt that that's going to be the full moon that's going to bring you the sixth seal. The fact that there's distress of nations with perplexity tells me that sign is going to take some time. You know, it's got to go around the world. People have got to look at it and go, what in the world's going on? What in the world is happening? They're not in a panic yet, but they're distressed. They're perplexed. They're curious. What's causing this? Well, it's war in heaven that's causing it, of course. So they're not going to come to the right conclusion. But this is going to be a sign. However, when we see those signs, when we see that there is a sign in the sun, the moon, and the stars because war in heaven has just begun and there is a problem with our oceans and seas, the first thing we're going to do is look at each other. Our mouth is going to drop open and we're going to go, can you believe it? It's here. The second thing I'm going to do is go to a moon phase calendar and find out when the next full moon is. Imagine that. We start seeing the signs and then we see, oh, look, it's the full moon is 3 days away. You have at least 3 days. Now, if we blow through that full moon day, then you got what? 28 more days till the next full moon. But it will be a sign to us and a clue to us. Here's what you got left. You got 5 days, you got 2 weeks. And again, we don't know what full moon. It could not happen. It may not happen on the next immediate full moon. It may be the next full moon after that, but it gives us some perspective. Imagine if it happens and you go, I've got 5 days. How would you spend those 5 days knowing that the full moon is coming in 5 days and you're seeing the signs that Jesus said to watch for? Whew. That will be some week, won't it? Now, there is a full moon coming up that I want to talk about. We got time. We got a little time. I'm going to do that in the next one. But wouldn't it be something If what's happening is the Revelation 12 sign was a 7-year warning. We're entering the 7th year of that sign this September, okay? We enter the 7th year. What if the distress of nations because of the roaring of the sea and the waves is a 7-day warning? I say that because of what Jesus says here, likening this event to the days of Noah. For as in those days before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage until the day when Noah entered the ark. And they were unaware until the flood came and swept them all away. He includes, when Noah went into the ark with his family, that was a 7-day period. So in other words, the people who knew the ark was being built and everything, I mean, it took decades for Noah and his sons to build it. They all lived to be, hundreds of years old. So they all, made trips and laughed or did whatever they're going to do about the ark. But the day he and his family went inside and that door was shut by the Lord, that kind of got their attention because they understood, oh, Noah and his family think this flood of his, this water that's coming, is about to happen. That took a little pep out of their step, apparently, didn't it? For the Lord to mention that, he said, it will be like those days. Well, there was a 7-day warning. That was a 7-day warning to everybody. You got 7 days, you're on the clock. It kind of makes sense that we might have the same situation. Might. But boy, oh boy, do we have a clue. And we're just now beginning to, let's take a look at it. And some of you are going to come up with better ideas than I'm going to come up with. But that's fine. We've got to mine this to the full degree that it's been given to us. The Holy Spirit put this here for us to see at this time. And he wants us to take it into consideration. I'll end with this. I had talked in the past about Pastor Carl Gallups and his rapture dream, that 2 other people that he met had the exact same. If you hear the story, that's the one rapture dream where you go, oh, that's God. That's all about God. The other rapture dreams may absolutely be divine, but that one is divine. And in that rapture dream story, all 3 people tell the same story and they all begin the same way. I'm standing in a field at night looking at the stars. Behind me is a city, but I'm not allowed to turn around and take a look. I just wonder, did they go out to that field outside of town because they knew it was a full moon night and they knew that this was an important part of the 6th seal? Maybe I'm putting too fine a point on their dream there, but there's a reason they all went outside the city to look at the stars, to look at the heavens. And I just wonder if the full moon clue is the reason why. Regardless of whether that dream includes what I just mentioned or not, if the church wakes up, this will be a true story. If the church will wake up and see what's going on, you better believe the church will go, look, we have a full moon coming on the whatever, next Wednesday. Let's meet as a church family and let's all go out and let's watch the full moon. And if the Lord is coming that night, let's be there waiting for him. That will be a reality if the church wakes up. I'm not seeing signs of that right now, but keep praying because the Lord wants them to wake up. We want them to wake up. So wake up already and learn the fabulous clue, the full moon prophecy. That prophecy is coming true.